Welcome everybody, I am LoneWolfEX, and this is the first hour, where I take you through the first hour of a game and break down my first impressions at the end. Now, this first hour is going to be a bit different from all the other ones that I've done, because I have very well over 150 hours in this game, and I didn't record my very first time playing because that was long before I ever nailed down what kind of content I was making on YouTube. But I do still have my notes from back then, and I remember most of what happened, so this is going to be more of a commentary than a let's play this time. Hope you understand. Now, without further ado, this is Elden Ring. Starting things off, despite the dirty katana wielder that I always become, I always try to start my FromSoft games with the most neutral class to get a well-rounded vanilla start. So, for Elden Ring, I started with Wretch. Then, after spending way too much time in a character creator making what is just always a self-insert, we get the intro explaining that every important character began a war so brutal that God himself abandoned us, and more importantly, that unlike them, you're nobody. You're just a guy. A tarnished of no renown. You get resurrected, see the light, and pose in the church that you just woke up in. You grab the ability to write messages for multiplayer, and get your first bit of sadness from reading an encouraging message which may have been from the only person to ever actually believe in you, who is now dead on the floor. Leaving the church, we head across the bridge to see our first fog wall, and I thought, that's nice of them to show me where the first boss is instead of just dropping it in on... Yup. So I fought, landed a hit or two before realizing I deal absolutely no damage to this thing, and eventually the inevitable happens. After getting my only mostly lifeless body dropped down a ravine, we meet the only other character to believe in us implicitly. No, not her. Before picking ourselves up and talking to a ghost that drops the first big twist of the game. There's a tutorial in this FromSoft game! It teaches you how to use items, what sites of grace are, how to attack, how to block, the usual. Then you get shot at by a sniper, dodge the sniper, kill the sniper, get taught how to run around all sneaky beaky like, and discover the thing that you're definitely going to be respawning at more than the sites of grace. All this before you get presented with the same type of fog wall from earlier, except you actually get to go through this one. When confronted with the Soldier of Godric, the game teaches you how to guard counter, which is an incredibly useful technique that I immediately regretted using. Naturally, this fight progressed with me actually landing a solid counter, which it taught me how to do, almost landing a one-shot with a crit, and then losing immediately. This will be the start of a trend. Next attempt, buff immediately, survive with imaginary health, and... much better. This will also become a trend. In like, my whole playthrough. Not in this video. Leave the tutorial cave, wonder how to get the shiny thing, give up on the shiny thing, and pose majestically on the ride up to actually begin the real game. Now what you're supposed to do here is obvious. You go straight forward to the grace that's directly in front of you, and then talk to the NPC who instructs you on what to do next. But I, being the consummate gamer that I am, immediately hooked a right and went straight into the swamp. I saw these bat things, killed one pretty quickly, and brimming with false confidence, I thought, I got this. I did not got this. After running forward along the cliffs, I got head off by a giant crab, so I took inventory of my options. I couldn't go back, couldn't go forward, and obviously can't climb the giant nature wall, so the game is naturally pushing me to go out into the empty space of the swamp, which I would soon realize was an incredibly well-designed bait to push me into the most FromSoft thing I'd ever seen. After running for my life to these ruins, I picked up a key item that I think I've literally never used. Then, while cleaning house... Uh-oh. No, 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 no! After some bush recon, I ignore everything that I just learned to make a mad dash for my runes before finding the loot cave of the ruins, which... I told you this would be a trend. After that, I made my way back to the ruins to get my runes back, and... I'm not coming down. You can't make me. After the Hellhounds died of old age, I made my way back to the loot cave, slowly killed all of the rats, and helped myself to the fruits of my labor. I snuck around a bit, found some loot, and... honestly, accepting my loss, I was just happy to have gotten an item before being sent back to Limgrave. Why am I here? What? I tried sneaking out along a different path. I found some more loot and... I don't like this pattern. At this point, I said screw it and ow, before getting away and finding myself my first in-world site of grace. After that, I tried to fast travel before realizing to my despair, oh no. I made my way out of the mines, tried again, and finally, actually ignited the first site of grace that you're supposed to, and then talked to Vare. He helpfully takes the time to explain that Godric the Grafted, the first demigod we can confront on our journey, is just up there in Stormvale Castle. Can't miss it. Oh, and of course I'm maidenless and destined to die alone in obscurity, but what else is new? Okay, Vare, you don't have to rub it in. Thin ice, bro. Thin ice. And naturally, having learned all of this new critical information, I chose to ignore absolutely all of it and go back into the swamp. I ran all the way to the other side, only to find this shiny bug boy, but having learned my lesson from the dragon and the rats, I of course took the bait without hesitation, and... On the upside, after that I ran into a big fight happening between the soldiers of Godric and the monkeys from Sekiro, and after helping them wipe each other out, I found this place that reminded me, oh yeah, this game is mysterious and weird, and I have not even scratched the surface yet. I have no idea what's going on. Then I found my second set of ruins, and my first naturally occurring fog door, but I opted to come back for that later. At least, I was gonna come back for it, until this happened and I ran for my life. Again. Then I found what seemed like a big caravan or a funeral procession surrounded by a ton of guards. I thought there must be something good, but... But then I killed one of the glint beetles and got my first Ash of War, which taught me how adding skills to weapons works. A set of incredibly important, useful, and straightforward information which, naturally, I didn't read any of, because apparently I'm just that guy. Then I went southeast, found the Mistwood Grace, and happened upon my first ever quest NPC, Kenneth Height. His fort had been taken over by a knight who's become obsessed with blood, and you're tasked with liberating it for a reward. If only I ever remembered to come back for the reward, and I didn't completely forget about Ken for the next 100 hours. I then spent an embarrassing amount of time looking for an NPC that I wouldn't be able to interact with for a very long time afterwards. Hey! Before finding my first merchant. After realizing that I didn't have the stats to wield the only good shield of the two he carried, I decided to upgrade my bonky stick to a slashy stick. Grabbed the grace next to Fort Height, and my first dungeon really began. I approached only to see a demi-human getting repeatedly form-tackled by a ballista, so I found a way to hop along a side path and go around. And while I was clearing the place out, I got a random drop that was the best thing I could have possibly asked for. Pants. Pants, which I boldly donned in front of the enemy before... I then ran into the fort past some dead foreshadowing before being promptly set on fire. Seeing death rapidly approaching from the rear, I made a run for the top of the fort, killing the bomber and the ballista man before nearly getting two-shot through a wall. Confronted with my imminent demise, I got desperate and accidentally discovered this little trick. A trick that I then used to get back to the entrance, progressively bait the big guy outside to buy time, and then confront the bloodthirsty... no one. There's just no one here. After seeing the big guy downwind, I decided to climb the tower and open a chest that I definitely buffered a dodge away from this time. See guys, I learn sometimes. Before picking up a critical key item that I didn't understand yet. I went back down and, okay, look guys, this part wasn't the same at all. I don't know why he was here, but I just really wanted to share this clip because I can't believe I actually hit this. Yeah, don't ask me to do that again. I ran upstairs, almost died through the floor, and got to fighting before realizing that this wasn't going to work with all the ads still around. So I used my little trick to escape and check if he followed me, before making a critical error.
Hello there.
I took care of the last bomber, and finally fought the knight for I did not got this. Respawn, kill things, get back to the knight, and realize pretty quickly that fighting him isn't the best idea if I haven't killed enough things on the way. Do the loop one more time, and then I unlocked the ability that carried me through most of the entire game until I got Rivers from the Mountain of Giants. Yes, I was that guy, don't worry, I got better, shut up. Entirely forgetting about Ken, I fast travel back to Limgrave and, drunk on my own power from my fresh win, I decided that I didn't appreciate Vare calling me maidenless for a third time. Yeah, this was a mistake that neither grace nor the passage of time could fix. So, first impressions. It's, needless to say, very difficult to get my first impressions on a game that I've been playing for so long. My perspective, my biases, everything changes when you have a game that challenges you and makes you adapt over a lot of time. That's why I decided I needed to make a brand new character just to do this review cycle, because I recognize that I have no way of remembering the feeling of being a level 1 character who dies to imagination when I'm now a level 200 god of pre-New Game Plus that's gone through multiple different builds. The thing that I found most fascinating is that my first time playing doesn't seem like it was most people's. You may have noticed that throughout this entire thing, there was no Tree Sentinel, no Merchant Kale, no Melina, which also means no Torrent, and I was locked at level 1 for a really long time, and of course, no Margit. That's the beauty and difficulty of reviewing Elden Ring. This game is massive, and the amount of freedom that you get, even from the very beginning, regardless of starting in this exact same way, few players are going to have the exact same experience. I think that the main thing I need to do is just stop overthinking it in an analysis paralysis sort of way, and just stick to overthinking it in the same way that you guys have come to expect from me. So then, from the top. Elden Ring is definitely one of the most forgiving FromSoft games, with quite possibly the best tutorial and the most explanations compared to its Soulsborne predecessors. The game is often bright and beautiful, which contrasts the grimdark fantasy tone of playing in a war-torn world forsaken by God, in which the only salvation for yourself is to ravage the divinity of other demigods until you become a god yourself. The game can be very linear or as open-ended as your heart desires, with the map providing directions from grace to grace, which you can either follow or, like me, choose to completely ignore for better and worse. This freedom allows the players to be rewarded near endlessly for their exploration in the form of encounters, bosses, loot, dungeons, the occasional side quests, along with building intrigue wherever you find something that doesn't quite seem to fit in. Your exploration is entirely organic. The world, despite its dying state, never feels empty or dead. There are creatures of all types, shapes, sizes, threat levels, and everything in between scattered everywhere, and no matter where you go, you're practically guaranteed to find something new and interesting. And despite the occasional, we'll say, questionable design decisions when it comes to collision physics, or lack thereof, the game has so much more good than the bad or jank that if after the first hour you were to ask me if Elden Ring is actually good, I'd say